This podcast is brought to you by the North East BIC, thanks to funding from the Durham Social Boost project provided via DCMS, helping social enterprises grow, supporting local businesses and driving innovation across our community. Thanks. Hi and welcome back to the Good Eggs podcast. My name is Anthony McDermott and we are here in Sunnyside, Sunderland at Diego's Joint CIC, and today we're joined by the wonderful David Barnes from Watling Spaces CIC. So, let's go and meet this good egg. Hi, David.
Hiya.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you today on this wonderful wintry northeastern day?
I'm good. It's always wintry, it's always wet, it's always cold. We're in the north. We love it.
Whereabouts are you based again?
We are in northwest Durham, so like we're in Consett.
Yeah.
We're actually in Leadgate, but it's like a little town on the edge of Consett, and no one knows where Leadgate is. So we're in Consett.
To be fair, you've got your own weather station up there anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, true.
It's winter in the summer and summer in the winter, isn't it?
It's always windy.
Great. So, welcome to the Good Eggs podcast. Thank you
very
so
much
much
for having us.
No, it's a pleasure. Obviously, the idea of the podcast is we want to speak to people who are doing wonderful work across the northeast, and you've definitely ticked that box. So, without further ado, I'm just going to crack off the top. Little egg there to pun for you. And we're just going to find a little bit about you, find about kind of what your backstory is, kind of what brought you to where you are today at Watling Spaces, and all about the people you want to help and are helping. So, David, take it away. David, tell us where you're from.
Where am I from? Well, I don't know if you noticed, I've always been from the northeast. I did leave for a bit, but I've come back, so don't worry. Yeah. So I've always been a northeast lad. I did all the amateur dramatics and I was a dancer when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
I've done all that kind of singing lessons, dancing lessons. I did all that kind of performing arts stuff. And then,
is that what you wanted to do when you were a child? Then was it you wanted to?
When I was a child, yeah. One day I just turned to my dad and said, "Oh, well, I'll be going to London," and he went, "You'll not." and then after a couple of years, it became his idea, which is great because he's an amazing man. I think everyone loves their dad. So what we did is I went to Italia Conti in London, and I was down there, and I worked as a professional actor for about 14 years.
Oh wow! How old were you at this point?
So I was, when I went to London, probably 18. Was I 18? Yeah, I must have been 18 because it was like after uni. Yeah. It was after the A levels. So I went down to. Don't get into drama school just before you take your A levels. Your results may go down.
Was drama drama by definition as well, was it?
Yeah. So I was fine. I did my best. So I went to Italia Conti and as an actor. So I did that for the training for 3 years, and then I've been around Then I kind of toured around in the community aspect of it. So I was in a van. Grabbing, you know what I mean? DSM in it all, like ourselves, doing the work, doing workshops and all that kind of. And that's the thing that I'd always had a love of community theatre. Yeah. I'd always done amateur dramatics. Like every night I was at a different rehearsal. Yeah. So my mum was literally a taxi driver. You know how people say, "Oh, I'm a taxi driver." It's like literally and sometimes there'd be like 3 things in a night. So you'd go to a singing lesson, then you'd have a dancing lesson, then at the night time I'd do a drama. No wonder I was useless at school because I was there till about 10:30. and then the next day I had to go in and pretend I knew what algorithms were. So I did all that. And then I started my family and I was like, well, I'm going to come back and take over the Roxy, which is it's always been like a thing that I've wanted to do.
Okay. What is the Roxy then? Sorry.
The Roxy is a 1930s Art Deco cinema that opened in 1939. Okay. Not the best year to open anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, it lasted for a while and then it closed as a.
I guess it survived
cinema.
The war then, I'm guessing.
It's still there. Yeah. You wouldn't tell, but it's still there. So it was 1939. It was still there. Then it became a bingo for a bit, and then eventually it closed. And it was just closed for, I think, 30 to 35 years. Wow. Like, my entire life it's been shut. And it's just sat there, and it's like it's 560 seats, or it was, before I regenerated it. Yep. So it was 560 seat kind of cinema. Like, it had all, like, Art Deco, so it's got all the massive columns and the fretwork. You know what I mean? It's got all those things that you just think we don't have that anymore. So
character.
It has character, and it was untouched, ruined by water damage and nicotine stains and all that. And the seating was like you remember when you used to go out to like clubs late at night and you just stick to carpets? It was like that, literally everything. And then when you come out, your hands were just black. So obviously all that was cleaned out, and we cleaned it all up, and it's all been... So it took... What we did is, because it isn't really viable as just a theatre on its own, because it's a theatre I want to make it into, not a cinema, because I can't... You've been to Odeon in Durham, and like you can't compete. Yeah. So I want it to be theatre for community level theatre, and like comedians and award ceremonies and anything else you want to do.
So you can hire the venue almost for anything, really, I'm guessing.
For anything, yeah. You could get married on a stage. Some people would like to get married. You know, all those kind of things. Like there's nice community spaces. The community space we're in now is beautiful. You know what I mean? I can see all the things, but you need diversity. So that's what we're doing. So I realised we couldn't make it viable just as a theatre, because it needs something that's going to have a kind of steady cash flow. Yep. So that's why we decided to make rehearsal studios. So we took the back of the auditorium out and built a 2-story building in it. And so that's now got 3 dance studios in it. I've only made them dance studios because that's kind of the highest spec that there could be. So they've got like sprung floors, they've got sound reverberation ceilings, they've got full mirror walls, they've got like integrated sound systems. It's all fully accessible. There's a ramp, there's a lift that'll get you to every floor.
But I'm guessing it can be used for anything.
But it can be used for anything. Oh, it's been used for all sorts of things. We've had comedy gigs, we've had networking events, we have hip-hop classes, we have Zumba, we have Booyaka, we have got a swing class, you know what I mean? We have the little movers in. I could go, and we have amateur dramatic theatre, and they like rehearse and practice all that thing. So literally anything and everything. Yeah. But so that gives us a lovely like community of people, and it's bringing people into the building, and people are starting to be aware that we exist and that we're there, and that we're kind of a step back from as a CIC, we're kind of one step back. We're kind of an infrastructure step. Okay. Whereas there's lots of lovely, amazing CICs that kind of do great work, and community interest companies and charities, but we're kind of one step back to try and have a community interest company that supports them. So they fund us, and then the money's like asset locked as us because we're a CIC as well, so which means that the money doesn't dissipate. It kind of continues to improve the facilities. It continues to provide we can help fund. Eventually, I'd love to be able to fund people to go into the different classes and the different sessions, and I'd love to be able to give lower community rates and all that, those kind of things. But obviously, I'm just starting out, so community is obviously something that's really important here, and I'm assuming that kind of comes from your early days, kind of travelling around in vans and meeting community people. Would you say that's fair, or? I just always felt it was a bit more authentic and you don't have to do something just to become a professional at it. You don't have to go to a dance class just to become a professional dancer. You don't have to practice the flute just to become a professional flautist. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with being able to play the guitar just in your house to a couple of friends, or to get up every Christmas or sing a few Christmas carols, that kind of thing. There's nothing. Yeah. You don't have to be. Just because you go swimming doesn't mean you have to go. You don't have to learn how to butterfly, and then you don't have to go into galas, and then you don't just do it because you like it, and you meet some people, and you're a bit like, oh, well, you know what I mean? John likes swimming, I like swimming, and then you've met a new friend. You're not just one person in one. You're not just like, oh, well, I don't know. I'm a footballer, and all I do all day is football. Yeah. I'm not saying, I just picked football because it's such a big one, and then just become obsessed with that one kind of thing. You're a bit like, well, why can't that footballer also play the cello? And you're a bit like...
In the words of Hugh Grant, in About a Boy, no man is an island. Sure?
It's true. Yeah, so...
that's my knowledge of chick films for you there, mine.
The egg pun. It was excellent.
Right, let's crack on. So great. So community's a really big thing to you, and it's that bringing people together. Do you think that's for you, or do you think it's for them? Like, in terms of... when you enjoy the community around you, or do you think you enjoy seeing the community go on and flourish, would you say?
It's a difficult one, yeah. Because I think anyone who says, "Oh, I do it all for the community," you think, well, you must be getting something.
Yeah.
There must be some joy out of it. I think that's probably how I'd describe it. I think I get a happy feeling out of it. That's the lamest way to describe it. I remember, like, when you see people in the space singing, dancing, doing their thing, laughing, joking, getting on, meeting people, just, you know what I mean? They practice something for week after week after week after week, and then they have their little performance, and they get up and they do a monologue or a speech, or they sing their song, and you think, well, actually, that's a big thing for that person to be able to now do that, because the transferable skills from that person being able to then go and take what they've done, they were like, oh, I know I can stand up in front of a group of 100 strangers and perform this. So you're a bit like, well, it must be much easier for them to put their hand up in class and say, oh, well, I think it's this. Yeah. And then you also learn to fail, because you sing something or you do it and you get it wrong and you don't do it right, and you realize that actually the world hasn't ended. Everyone just goes, oh, well, just do it again. How
do you feel about failure? So failure is a great topic, actually. I'm glad you kind of mentioned that word, I suppose. But throughout your career, throughout your life, would you say there's anywhere that you've failed? It's quite a harsh word, isn't it?
Yeah,
but is there anywhere where you've felt, actually, I have failed, and how do you think that's kind of grown you as a person?
It's not a negative always. I remember Tim Minchin once said something about, and he was just like, sometimes you're reaching for a goal and you miss all the opportunities that are around you, because you're like, oh, well, I'm going to be an astronaut, and I'm going to do, like, I've got to do this, I've got to get that, and I'm going to be an astronaut, and I'll be in space, and then you don't realize that there's all these other things on the side which you would enjoy as much, but because you're just looking at that, you're missing all the opportunities that are around you. And I think that's what I think about failing. A bit like, well, I haven't failed, but even if you did, you're just like, well, just, you might fail each day. You probably do. I probably fail every day in some way, but why hang on to being like, oh, well, I could have done this a little bit better, or maybe I should have done, and you'd be like, yeah, that's a genuine feeling, and if you feel like that, sit in it for a little bit and then get up and... Yeah. But I know it's a difficult one.
As the well-known girl band from the 1990s said, shoulda, woulda, coulda, isn't it? You know, you're right.
I don't know. I'm far too young to know anything about them.
No, but you're right. And you know what? I think that's a really great attitude to have, because people put so much pressure on themselves, and things don't go right, you know, all the time. You know, it's life, isn't it? Things can go wrong, and that's okay.
Well, things can go wrong, like, just in the way... Like, you think, if I say the wrong thing, you think, well, it's not really... It doesn't really matter. Like... Actually, I think it makes you more of a real person, you're more of a real authentic person if you can talk and just, if you get it wrong. Even on my wedding speech, I got up and went, obviously I'm supposed to be a professional actor. I got up and went, I'm a lot more nervous than I thought I was going to be. And you just be like, just be real, just be honest. And then people are on your side, they're rooting for you. And then instead of a room full of people who are going, oh, who does he think he is? You've got a room of people going, go on, mate. You know what I mean? You smash it.
So tell me a little about David, the real David, and tell me about family life. What does that look like then? So married, yeah? Married,
yes. I'm married with two lovely children, boy and a girl, Evelyn and Albert. They are fab little bands. They are 7 and 9. We can cut that.
We'll edit that bit, right?
Edit that really right. They are 7 and 9, yeah. It's because my youngest is nearly 8. Right, okay. And I keep getting it wrong. He's like, I'm 7. I'm like, oh, sorry, man. But so they're fab. I'm very lucky. My wife, she's a paediatric nurse, and she keeps me straight. She makes sure everything in my family is going the way it's supposed to be doing, and my kids she does all that kind of admin and all that kind of stuff. And I do all my kids pickups and all that kind of stuff. But I have been told when they're going to happen, you know what I mean? Or we go through our diaries together, and she's just like, yeah, you're doing this day, this day, this day. And then every morning I get up and go, and she goes, yes, you're picking them up, you're doing this. You've got swimming, you've got brownies, you've got boys brigade, you've got, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I go, right, fab.
You must love all that, though, because that kind of, I'm assuming that takes you back to your childhood a little bit, and going through all of these clubs and dancing and all of the things. Yeah, are they kind of... do you think they might go down the creative route themselves, or?
Most creative people say don't go down the creative route, but I think the creative route that I aspire to, the kind of transferable skills of performance and creative, I think that's a thing that I would like them to be in. But I suppose if they want, they could do what they want is the thing, and nothing I say makes any difference anyway. Well,
hopefully, now that mum and dad own a big theatre space, I mean, it's a nice little playground for them, in fairness, isn't it?
It is, to go and to have that experience and to meet a new group of friends. So you've got school, you've got all your different groups. I think the more groups you can join, the better.
Yeah, I think that's true. Although I did go through a bit of a mad spurt once upon a time, and it wasn't long after lockdown, and I decided I was going to join. I read a book, can't remember the gentleman's name, but I read a book and basically joined lots of clubs. He wanted to join as many clubs as he could over the year. So I had this idea that I was going to join a lot of clubs. So I decided to join karate. I took up pie making. I took up French. I took up tango. You name it, I did it. And you know what? I didn't stick to any of these things. I mean, I now own 3 ukuleles, which just sit in my shed. But I loved just meeting people and doing something different. And I was useless at all of it, to be honest with you. But I just liked being around and seeing different things. It's and you've kind of mentioned that, and I think everybody should try something, shouldn't they? Just
often you don't even know it's happening. You know what I mean? There's like fantastic places that you don't actually. I don't even know. You didn't even know existed, and you think, well, at least if you might have gone to tango, and you've gone into this, and you think, well, I didn't even know this place was here. And then the next time you're meeting someone, you might go, oh, actually, do you want to come down Diego's? You know what I mean? Well, like, it's a really cool place. I've never
Oh, it's an amazing place.
Like in the back of, and you think, oh, you'll go here and have a fab time, and you think, and there's just different places to go, and then.
Do you think, as a creative yourself, do you think, because you are fundamentally a creative, I guess, do you think the underbelly of the Northeast kind of hides it a bit too much, or do you think it's accessible at the moment, or do you think it's quite challenging to find opportunities?
I think there's so much going on everywhere that you sometimes don't know. You can't see the wood for the trees. But I think if you are looking, you can. It's never gonna. I don't think there's any way of forcing it upon anyone or letting you know what I mean? It's difficult to let anybody know anything, like to let them even know you exist, kind of. So you have to build up slowly, which is hard for CICs, and because we're usually one-man bands, or we've got a very small team kind of thing, and it's where do your priorities lie? Where are you going to spend? You've got 8 hours in a day of work. Where are you going to spend those 8? As if we only work 8 hours a day. Don't show my wife that bit. So where are you going to put that time? And at the minute, obviously, I'm in the middle of a massive restoration.
I was going to ask you that because obviously you're not chaotic, that's not the word, but your life is busy. You've got a huge restoration project. You've got a family with young children. You've got a number of other things going on. How do you find that you manage your own time and prioritise what's right for you and the business, I guess, and the family?
And the family. I do the family, and then I do the business. Yeah. And then I do the business a bit more.
And where does David come into that piece?
Hey, I'm kind of offsetting that time. So hopefully in like a few years, when everything's up and running, I'll have enough time to do me. But then everything is me as well. Like the business is me. You know what I mean? That meeting all the different people and showing them around and doing tours and chatting to people like yourself and things like that. That's what it's about.
That was what I was going to ask you, actually, in the theme of eggs and the chicken and the egg. What came first for you? Was it the passion, or was it the business kind of experience? Was it?
Well, I don't have any business experience. It's got to be I think it's the passion, It's got to be the passion, because you become like... I act as though I'm an expert for a day in every field, because obviously... when you're building something physically, you've got to become an expert in that one thing for 5 minutes and then you're on to the next thing, and you forget that you even knew that. You forget all the regs and all that kind of stuff that you looked into to check that everything was ticky box and everything was fine. But it's the passion is it has to be the passion that keeps you going. Good. Because you have to love it. And that's what I like about community interest companies and social enterprises and charities. You know what I mean? The people behind them, even whatever they're talking about, it's interesting because they love it. They're passionate about it. They're interested in it. You know what I mean? I'm sitting in this place and there's like all the walls are covered in like all the different ales and drinks and things that people have put in their time, and they've written it all out, and you're a bit like, well, I'm keep going, oh, I wonder what that's. And I'm a bit like, I'm interested in writing. Whereas you could write advertising for other things on the walls, and I just, like most advertising these days, just goes over your head. Whereas I think because it's got that personal touch and it's more about passion than about business is a key part, because you've got to make money, and there's nothing wrong with money. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with making money, especially if you're in an asset lock thing where any money that you make goes back into the community. It's all kind of locked in so that it stays there, and it grows. And
it's such an interesting piece that you said there, really, because lots of social entrepreneurs, wonderful people, but they always seem to have a little bit of guilt almost for taking a wage and taking a salary, and you're like, hang on a minute, you can't do this for free. You know, and
I don't take any when I literally only
And so many people are guilty of it, and you know, it's a conversation piece where we're like, okay, fair enough, we know you want to put it back in the business, and we know you want to do good, but if you can't feed your wife and kids, or you can't put a roof over your head, then you fall down, and when you fall down, they fall down. And I think that's a real key piece of the puzzle for some people, that they just don't get right sometimes, because you're right, it's all from the heart, isn't it? Which is great.
Yeah, but then I do, even I'm very guilty of it, and I think I literally was having a conversation about this this morning, I think, actually, Oh no, it wasn't this morning, it was last night. My wife was talking to me about it, and I was a bit like, yeah, you are right. You know, when someone's telling you and you're like, everything they say is right, and you're still just like, but you're still kind of, I just still like put my little blinkers on and go, all right, just in a few months. And I think, well, actually, you should take them off, and I probably need to go back to my board and have a good old conversation. But
no, I loved what you said there about people across the sector, in the social enterprise sector. Some people call it the non-profit. I don't like that word, the non-profit sector, because ultimately you need the profit to get pumped back in to be able to keep doing what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah, you've got to. Profit's not a bad thing. You've got to make profit in order that. But it's not going. It's what the money's used for. It's not going off in dividends and all that kind of.
Yeah. You haven't built yourself a spa in your back garden, have you? Do you know what I mean?
That money's being used for
the good,
heating and eating, and you know what I mean. So that you've got nice things that the whole community get to use. You know what I mean? In the space, you've got pianos and you've got microphones and you've got all that kind of stuff that you are scared of, and people are a bit like, oh, don't touch that. You know what I mean? You'd be like, no, you need to practice having it in your hand. You need to stand, you know what I mean? You can't just suddenly be like 2 seconds before you, that's 500 quid, don't break it. You're like, you can't have that.
That's what we did with the podcast equipment today, mine. So
so it's a bit like, but you do set it up and you go, I've got to be really careful with it. And you'd be like, well, no, it's a practical thing that has to be, you know what I mean? You get experience with it, and that's why you do it. So and all that money, it's deciding, where you're going to.
But no, you're right, and you know, the Northeast is a real hotbed of social enterprises and social entrepreneurs, and there's so many people doing wonderful things for our communities that, sadly, if they weren't doing it, you know, there's that huge piece in the middle that's just missing, isn't it? And you know, so since you've kind of entered this world, which is now 3-4 years, is that fair to say, or it could be longer, could it?
No. I was quite quiet when I first started.
Are there any particular social enterprises that you've found real inspiration from? Is there anybody that you thought, wow, that's amazing? You know, is there any kind of stories there you can reflect on?
There's so many people who I think are amazing. Like, and you just sometimes you think, well, I don't really know how you're doing all these things, and you think, well, there must be a whole group of you, or you must be getting loads of money from the lottery or whatever, and then you find out, and they're a bit like, and even when they've got a lottery grant, you go, oh, well, wow, you know what I mean? So you could look at it and go, oh, they got a lottery grant, and then if you look at how much they actually received and what they've managed to do with it, and you're just like, well, I don't, just like, how have you managed to do all this for such a small amount of money? But they do,
it's fascinating, isn't it?
They make, it
is. And this is why, you know, on this podcast, we want to share those stories, because, I we really want to drill down to tell people, you know, this is why they do it. It's born out of passion. But nobody's doing this to become a millionaire.
No. I don't think any business is becoming millionaires though as well. Not even traditional business. There's nobody who's making mega money. And if you ever walk in, you think, oh, this cafe is sending like little, obviously not the big guys, the little ones. You think, but even their franchises and they're paying rates and business rates and they're eating and they're like, you know what I mean? Nobody's making a fortune, because if you are making a fortune, you pay more.
No, you're right. So in terms of kind of challenges that you've kind of come across in the current business that you have now with Watling Spaces, what would you say is, obviously with the Roxy, you've had some challenges with the build, I'm guessing. Has that kind of gone kind of relatively okay? The
build's gone really well, actually. The only thing was making a 1930s building conform to the regs and to make it fully accessible is difficult, because the floors are all pitched. You're only allowed, I think our floors were 1 in 15 and they had to be 1 in 20, and loads of little things like that, and all the information around fire doors and levels and gaps in lifts and all that kind of. You know what I mean?
It's a lot to learn, isn't it?
It's a lot to learn, and like I was saying, you have to kind of become an expert for a day, and then you have to forget it, because you can't remember it all. I've only just purchased the curtain for the for the stage. Literally, this is fresh in my head. I was doing it the other day, and you find out all about. You think, oh well, it's a curtain. You think, well, no, there's so many different types of curtains, and they call them all ridiculous names, like Travellers and Artesian and like loads of these things, and you're like, are they? And then sometimes they call them legs, and sometimes they call them borders, and they're all different things, and they come in all different colours, and there's so many things like that. And then even when I got my head around that, the edges can be hemmed, or they can have like elastics, and the bottoms can have chains, or they can have poles, and like, what was the other thing that I had? The tops can be like grommets, or they've got. I was looking at, there's about 12 different types of fixing that you can have at the top, and it's got to fit with your rail system, and you're a bit like, right, and you're just like, right, and it's quite, there's a lot of little things, and then every time you get one, and then you like, finally you get your quote, and then you've got to work out how to make international payments, which you've not done before, and then all those kind of things, and then you realise you've got to do it in certain ways, and your quote's in pounds, it should be in euros, and so you do that, and then you get stung on a bad rate, and then just loads of little things where you're like so you learn all that, and then you know what I mean, that's done, and then I move on to how to paint fretwork gold.
And this is without actually doing it. This is with respect just the building, isn't it? This is just the building, and obviously the thing that I'm doing the building for is for all the fantastic things that can happen within the building. You know what I mean, and to bring. Well, that's what I was going to ask you next, actually.
The arts to that area.
Yeah, the arts. So in terms of the art that's currently in the area, I'm guessing is it non-existent, or is there a little bit? Or
there is a little bit. There's definitely things, you know what I mean, there is art, but everyone is we're quite separate at the minute. Yeah. We're all, I'm not saying we're going to all join together and be a big happy family, but we're quite separate. But it would be nice if we could support each other like sister companies. So that's kind of where I'd like to go in the future. Right. Be like, if I can't facilitate them, then to pass them on to push them towards certain companies and you know what I mean, good places which would.
I guess it's growing that ecosystem, isn't it, in the local area, and becoming almost branches of a tree for each other. Would that be kind of a way there?
Yeah. Because any footfall that you can improve, if you can improve footfall in an area, full stop, it's going to bring it up. Because usually that's what. As soon as footfall starts to go down, then you think, well, people aren't walking past. People aren't seeing things. People aren't, you know what I mean? You can't, your local shop can't make money if there's not somebody just wandering past it. You know what I mean? You walk past and you go, oh, actually, I'll pop in there. I remember I need some, I don't know, chewing gum or whatever. And so you nip in there and you buy, there's lots of little things rather than, you know, when you're in the big shop, you're not thinking, oh, I need, you know what I mean? It's a different kind of thing. Or there's what's that cafe? That's cool. That's independent. Oh, I'll go there. I'll try that one out, or I'll just, even if you just went in one day when you're working, you think, oh, I'm dropping off something at the Roxy. Oh, there's a shop next door. There's a sandwich shop next door. What? It's like all homemade pies and stuff like that. And you go in, you think, oh, that's fab. And you're like, you've had a nutritious dinner from somewhere local, which is you wouldn't have gone otherwise, because you would have thought, well, I don't know where I am. I'm going to somewhere that's on Google. It's easy to find.
You're right though. It goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's those steps that the more steps you put in, the more opportunities for everybody, really, isn't it? Which is
you could do it. You just don't notice. I think there's so many times I've walked down high streets. I was walking through Barnard Castle the other day, and I'd completely missed the Witham. Fantastic venue, you know what I mean? Lovely cafe out the back. They have so much going on. I now follow them on Facebook, and they have and the stuff they do, and it's just fun to see what they're doing, and you're like, oh, they're cool, and then just reaching out to them, and they're like, oh, the artistic director there's amazing, and she's like, oh yeah, I'll come up, you know what I mean? I've got a building background, I'll come and help, and you just like that kind of experience is just. You can't pay for it, you know what I mean? Well, you can, but maybe a lot.
So what's the goal? What's the vision? Like, I know you've kind of talked about it already, but let's just say we fast forwarded 5 years. The building was all complete, hopefully. Would that be right? 5 years?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah. So what's the kind of dream and the vision for that community in that area? What would you love to have given them, I guess? What would be your gift, I suppose, if you could give them something?
Just the opportunity to see... for not to have to travel miles to see something, you know what I mean, and to be able to have.
Do you feel like when you were younger, you were fortunate to get opportunities, and do you feel like it's a little bit of maybe they're not as easy to reach now, so you want to give that back? Would that be sort of along those lines?
It's a hard one on the giving back thing, because I don't know if I am giving back.
Oh, I am. You definitely are, Dave. No, you really are.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, maybe because I think I do get quite a lot from it. Personally, so I think it helped. It's for me as well. But I love seeing people doing things. You know, I don't know what it is, but I'd love John, the bloke who works in the travel agent, and then suddenly he's not. He's in the Rocky Horror Show, you know what I mean, singing his heart out kind of thing, and you're just like, and he invites all his family and his friends and all the people from work, and they all come and they all have a night out, a social event where people come out and spend time with, like, intergenerational, you know what I mean, because I think that was what really helped me when I was younger. I was in a lot of groups with older people, as a 12-year-old, and you see fully grown men and women who are doing it just for the love, and you kind of interact with them and you learn from them, and you see that there's lots of different people who do lots of different things, and you think, well, and they all come together to do this one thing. They all do it on the stage for a week, and then they're off for a couple of months, and then they all come back and do it again. And you just think, well, that's fun. Let's do that.
You know what's really interesting as well? I can see and hear the passion in you. You almost, not that you're not alive, but you almost come more alive when you're talking about it. It's fascinating. Yeah. And genuinely, that's why we wanted to get you on the podcast, because, you know, you are a good egg, David, and I want you to know that, because I think you're like, oh, it's for me, but it's not. It's for them. You're doing it for them, and that's really inspiring.
I'm doing it for us both.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that. It's just, I'm doing it for,
Yeah, I get that. Last couple of questions for you. So, one of the questions that we always ask people is if you had some words of advice to somebody else who was not necessarily looking to start a business, but who was looking to do something good in their community, what would you say to them?
Looking to do something good. Probably have a look to see what people actually want. Which isn't always easy, because sometimes people get stuck in what was there before. I get a lot of, oh, is it going to be a cinema? Oh, is it going to be a bingo? We love the bingo. And you're a bit like, I know, I love bingo, but it's not, we're not a world which plays bingo in that way anymore. You know what I mean? There's a few big places that still do it, but a lot of it's online and on your phone and things like that. It's not this, and there's a lot of other venues that can cater for that. So what I would say is, try and find something, I suppose you need to be passionate about it. So something you love that you think people want, and that you probably try and make a little network before you start. Try and go on it on your own is quite a thing. I think a lot of social enterprises, it's like it becomes one person kind of.
It's quite a lonely world, isn't it?
But I think if you could get a group of, say, 3 or 4 of you who are all really active, and you all kind of share a bit of the load, and you all kind of say, well, I'm going to do this part of it, almost give yourself a department, you know what I mean?
Like that,
Your account, I don't know, this is off the top. You're like, and a bit like, even, because at the minute, I'm just like, oh, I'll pass that on to my accounts department. I think, well, that's me. So I'll look at that, and then I go, oh, yeah, I'm just waiting for that. Yeah, I'll pass that on to sales, and I think, well, that's me. So, but yeah, so maybe just have a role each, and then do it as a small group. I think doing it on your own is daunting.
Yeah.
And I have like support behind me, which never gets the kind of the limelight, or kind of it's in the shadows a bit. But it's like, I obviously am not just doing this on my own. I'm not a superhero.
No, I think that's really good advice, and I think the key thing that you've said throughout as well is have the passion for something you want to do, and try, I guess, is the other honest answer as well, isn't it?
You can't fake passion, but you can't, and try, and just do it, and if it doesn't go well, then hide any evidence that you haven't tried.
Last piece of the pod for you now. So, what we always ask is our guest as well is basically, what are you looking for in terms of, who could help you? Is there anybody who you would love to work with? Is there anybody that you would really love to help? Because ask away is the honest thing.
Yeah. Is there anyone? I think people who are looking for a venue or are looking for a professional like space to house their group.
Yeah.
I think because obviously I said before, we're like a step back. I've made the infrastructure, and I do reach out to a lot of groups and be like, oh, well, you know what I mean, just to let you know we're here. I'll give you a tour if you want a tour, that kind of thing. But I would like the kind of people more from the production side of things can come, that kind of people, like programmers and like comedy programmers and that, just to kind of help us just add on to a circuit. So if you've got a circuit already and say, oh, well, would you be interested in being part of our circuit? And I go, well, actually, and I got a Sunday evening or whatever, and we'll take 3 or 4 things a year or whatever, and I'd like to do that. Because it's nice to be able to have more established people in there as well, because that means it's going to fill up. That means there's lots of profit. That means that profit gets reinvested, and all of that money goes into more community-based things.
Yeah.
So you're getting the best of both worlds. The people the established people are making money, and it's like trickle down. And which actually works, rather than what we've got. State, not political. So that kind of thing. So so they make what they need, we make what we need, keeps us going, keeps them going. They keep coming back because they make money. We have that money to put back into our community and to support the day-to-day running. Means that we can employ people to run box office. I can employ and more people to be ushers and all that kind of thing, because I'm going to need ushers and bar staff and all that kind of, and backstage people. But at the minute, we're not at the stage where I can employ people or give people long-term contracts or any of that. So I'd love to be able to
give opportunities.
And there will be there, just at the minute, there's not the money or the funding for them. Yet. But there will, you know what I mean? It just... All funding is a tricky area. It takes a lot of work, and you have to prove yourself. And I understand it from both sides. You think, well, why is it so hard to get funding? But like, well, because there's so many people asking. There's some wrong-uns, and you know what I mean. They want to get their best out of their money, and you want to prove. So it's a bit. Yeah. And eventually you try, and then eventually there's two things meet together, and then harmony. You know what I mean? Harmony. And you have a lovely big curtain.
No, David, thank you so much for
No, it's
sharing
been a pleasure.
Insights.
I warble on.
No, you don't. Honestly, it's great. And the key thing is sharing your passion. It's so good and so refreshing to hear that you just want to do good. Honestly, you really do. It's great. And yeah, you said, it's a little bit for me as well, but think it's important for you to know how many people you are probably going to help, and those future generations of people who might not have even seen a theatre space will get that opportunity. And that's, you know, you might be a small piece, a big piece, but you're a piece of that puzzle. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good. As it is customary here on the Good Eggs podcast, we're now going to present you with your very own Good Eggs egg. And David, keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Oh, look at that. Cracking.